All right, everybody, welcome to Behind the Patreon once again. This time we're talking about NES memories, the Famicom, all the rest, but probably mainly Nintendo in the US, because that's what our memories are. But yeah, let's just start off, Mike. So your initial memories with the NES?
Yeah, so the NES was not my first gaming console experience. I have two older sisters. They're roughly 10 years older than I am. So I had a hand-me-down Atari. So I
Nice.
was already having some experience there. And then actually, I think the first time that I really was impressed was still not the NES. And this is what colored a lot of my early experience. Was I went to a friend's house and my friend had a Sega Master System and I was just blown away by it. So I feel like I had always seen the NES at other people's houses and stuff like that, but I was never really impressed with it as a games machine until I saw the Sega Master System, which made me feel like, oh my God, these things can look really good. The NES just doesn't look all that great. Because I had a friend who had it with, he had Rob, like the big robot thing. And I remember being like, well, how does that work? And he was like, I don't know, man, it's broken. And I don't think that anybody I knew who had Rob actually knew how to make it work, or it was broken, or I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Right.
So my earliest experiences with the NES were pretty like, this is kind of shoddy. What's going on here? What else did I play? I played, I mean, obviously I played like whatever people had. It was Mario and all that stuff. But it didn't impress me, and I was a little confused as to why people kept like blowing in the cartridge or why you had to push it down and all that stuff. So early on, I really just had a sense of, this is a strange machine. Why doesn't it seem to work right for anyone? That was really my earliest experience with the NES.
Okay. So NES is my first system. And dude, when we're talking about this, these are some of my earliest memories, man. Like I'm pulling far back for this one.
Yeah.
But I do remember, I am pretty sure that my parents rented the console first. And I remember helping to hook it up, or maybe even totally figuring out how to hook it up. I can't remember, but I remember being part of the hooking up to the TV process. And we're talking like I was 5 maybe. So like pretty good. I think I pat myself on the back there, but I'm just kind of, you ever get impressed with yourself from a memory from, when you were a kid?
You know what? It's the same memory that impresses me. I used to have, back then it was mostly RF that we used to connect the game systems.
Yeah.
And I found that I think I was like reading the manual or something, and I was like, wait a second, can I do this? And I daisy chained them so that I had multiple systems connected to the TV at one time.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it degrades the signal somewhat, but like I was a little kid and I was like, well, how do I have this and this connected to the TV at the same time?
Incredible.
And
I never even thought about that.
RF units.
Oh my God, man. So yeah. So I remember distinctly looking at, like this little, like what looks like a remote control, like signal receiver. It's like a little black square on the right side or something. They never used it maybe for the NES, right? On the
Directly.
front, it looks like a remote control receiver kind of thing, a little black square. I thought that the game was going to come out of that screen. And then they turn it on and it's on the TV. And I was like, holy shit. I said that when I was 5. No, but like I remember this all very, like, pretty clearly. And then the first video game I ever played in my entire life was Top Gun for NES, which wasn't great.
I'm surprised you stuck with games.
I know. It
That was
was
a rough
rough.
one.
It was rough, but I was, like, into it, it was my first video game, so
Yeah.
and Top Gun still had some sort of a presence, even though it was probably, 6 years after the fact. It was '92 or something. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah, I remember, and I had, like, a little flight jumpsuit as a kid too, like, I was into Top Gun, I was into fighter jets. Um,
Okay, yeah. That makes a
so
difference,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah. That I thought they were cool looking. Like, I wasn't into cars at all, not fucking ever. Only Transformers,
Mm.
but fighter jets were just way cooler. So, uh, yeah, that was the first time, and I could go into more about but the next game I play is gonna spoil our little list. So, yeah, so our next section is
Mm.
gonna be about, like, our top 3
Well, before
games
we
for
do that, I will
okay,
share
yeah.
one
Oh, yeah, yeah,
more
yeah.
positive memory, a pretty strong one here,
Okay.
about time with the NES. So I was mainly gaming on the Sega Master System for most of the years that these two systems were on the market, but I played plenty of NES because I had friends. All my friends had it except for one. There were just two of us who had
Yeah.
Sega. So I used to hang out with this one friend a lot. We played Nintendo games together, and I was at his house one day after school, and I got a call there at the house from my grandparents, and they wanted me to come home so I could go to the Big Apple Circus with them. And I
Okay.
had this moment of just like, well, do I want to go to the circus or do I want to keep playing Dr. Chaos? Which was it's kind of like a somewhat it seems like an obscure game now. To us, we played it a lot. I don't think most folks bothered with Dr.
I don't
Chaos.
I don't think I know this game, dude.
I'm not even sure I can remember very much of it now. It's just one of those games that came out at the time. We were interested, and nobody else seemed to care, but we were having a good time. And I remember telling my grandparents, like, I don't want to go to the circus. I don't like. I had a fear of clowns to begin with. They
Right.
should have known that. Thank you,
Right.
Poltergeist and my sisters.
Right. Right.
One time we went to Rye Playland, the amusement park in Westchester, New York, or whatever, and I screamed my head off because they were clowns. And my sisters got pissed because we had to leave. And my mom was like, "Well, it's because you idiots showed him Poltergeist." And it was.
I was never afraid of clowns,
Yeah.
I just always thought they were lame.
Oh, God. Well, they're lame too. There's nothing
Yeah.
about them that's good. There's nothing about clowns
I
that
don't
is
know.
good.
And if you like clowns, there's something wrong with you, I think. If you wanna be a clown, there's something really wrong with you. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, I agree with there's something wrong with the whole situation, but I was never like unless it was like It or something or Poltergeist or whatever, I wasn't, like, totally afraid
Mm.
of them really, but
Oh, I was absolutely horrified by them. I just couldn't deal with it. So that wasn't even the main thing though. For me, it was just like, I know what the circus is. I've been to the circus. I don't enjoy these things. Like they're making elephants dance or something. I don't know. That's not how I wanted to see an elephant. So I was like, I don't want to go to the circus. I want to stay here and play this game. We're having fun. And I didn't go to the circus because I wanted to play Dr. Chaos with my friend. So a good game, it doesn't matter what the hardware is. A good game is a good game. And I had a really great time with that game with my friend. And I
You had a
decided
har
it's better than the circus.
you had a hard time accepting the NES in general because the Master System really did it for you?
The Master System just like it was impressive. The graphics and of course, Sega having a strong arcade presence was doing a lot of ports and things like that from the arcade games coming to the home and that's really where my heart was. It was in the arcade. So anything that was like gonna give me that arcade feel is what I was going for. And Nintendo always did something different because they weren't really an arcade focused company primarily.
Right, I could see that. If I had been a little bit older, I might have been in the same boat, but
Mhm.
NES was the first one. Dude, I didn't know a single soul again. I never even saw a Master System ever until way, way after the fact, man. I mean, I would it was just it had no presence in Alabama at that time.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But I
Yeah. Well,
remember
there's a
when I
lot
had
there's
a
a lot to that story. That's a whole
when
other podcast or two or three about the whole business world and Nintendo's dealings and Sega's dealings.
Oh, yeah, we'll do that in another episode.
Yeah.
Um, they still have interesting business decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
But I remember I got this adapter for
Mm.
cheap. I probably wouldn't have I don't think I got this, like, totally new. It was, like, one of those, like, bargain bin KB Toys things, but it was a
Mhm.
master I got it because I was, like, interested in it. I was like it was like a Master System adapter for the Game Gear, but
Oh, yeah,
I didn't even know what the Master System was. I just got it because it was, like, 10 bucks, and then somebody at school, like, somebody's older brother or something was like, "Oh, yeah, it's Master System." So, like, they knew it maybe, but
Mm.
yeah, I just had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And like the EGM and the magazines at the time, they weren't covering like games that were already out. So I don't remember like
Mhm.
much System coverage.
Yeah.
I think my EGM time
Mhm.
probably started with Super Nintendo because I
Okay,
remember
yeah.
the first EGM I ever got was about the Power Rangers SNES game.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty late for me. That's late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but once I started it, I went whole hog into it. I was like probably a subscriber 2 months after that. You know, it
Yeah.
was I went all the way in. I don't remember a whole lot of NES coverage with my I
Mm.
mean, I think maybe because it was at a transition period from
You
NES
mean the
to Super
Sega Master
Nintendo.
System, or do you mean NES coverage? I'm not sure if Oh, you're saying because of
NES,
the
8-bit,
generational shift.
I don't remember much 8-bit coverage. I remember
Mm.
being super like right at the beginning of 16-bit
Yeah,
coverage. Maybe
yeah.
some of the final stragglers late release 8-bit games. So,
Mhm.
dude, the Master System looks cool. What a great
Mhm.
look for a system, and
Oh, that
the
design, I
black
love it.
and apparently it had a huge foothold in the UK and a lot of Europe, and like
And
they
Brazil.
grew they grew up with platformers on that
Mhm.
more than Mario, which is totally different from my experience, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
other people's, like, platforming ground zero is Mario
Mhm.
for many, many people, but
Yeah,
they didn't invent the genre, so,
yeah.
I've looked it up, I have, like well, we should do a Master System thing because 'cause I've done it I've played it
That's
in
yeah,
emulators and shit, but
obviously, this is, like, meant to focus on the NES, but it's hard to not consider the things surrounding it, you know?
Molvelius or whatever, that RPG, and there was a few others.
Golvelius, yeah.
Golvelius,
Oh, I love
yeah, that
this.
yeah, yeah, that the happy console gamer on
Mhm.
YouTube loves the system, and so I've learned a lot about that. But anyway,
Yeah.
back to the NES. So, are we ready? I have another memory, but it's gonna be
Yeah.
involved with one of my lists, and we're gonna
So
we'll
let's
just
share it when it comes up,
yeah,
naturally
yeah,
in the game, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Alright,
Right.
ready to move in to it?
So we're gonna go through our top 3 games for the system, and we'll each do our, number 3 game first, alright? We'll do a nice
Alright.
little countdown here.
So, Mike, we're gonna start off with you, buddy.
Okay. Alright, my number 3 game is Bubble Bobble. Naturally, for me, right, this is originally an arcade game. The NES version is wonderful. It is a fantastic port. I really love it. I used to rent it with friends on the regular. It's like I loved that co-op experience. There was, we had Contra back then too, right? It was a two-player co-op experience, but Bubble Bobble was the one that I really preferred to play more than any other. And it's the kind of game, and this is an important consideration for me of like what my best games are for the system. Would I go back and play it today? And the answer is absolutely. I would like to go play this right now. I was playing Bubble Bobble for friends last night on the Switch because I
Oh,
got it from the
nice.
library. And I was just like, I can't believe how well this game just holds up, because Bubble Bobble for Friends was made like in, I don't know, 2019 or something. And it just feels like a new Bubble Bobble from this. What is this,
It's
87?
like
I
a
don't even
it's like an
remember.
HD remaster or something?
No, no, it's all new levels and stuff. It's the
Oh,
same core design. It's Bubble Bobble. It's more Bubble Bobble stages, and they feel great. The only thing that's
that's cool.
nice that they added in the new one is now instead of bouncing on the bubbles by like holding the jump button, you just kind of automatically bounce on the bubbles, and you have to press
Oh,
down
that's good.
to go through them. But yeah, Bubble Bobble on the NES, man, it's just so gratifying. The controls are tight as anything. They all feel good, right? If you screw up, it's generally your fault. It feels good. A lot of NES games, the controls are sloppy. They feel off. You feel like this is a poorly made product. That is not the case with Bubble Bobble for me. I love every moment of it. Even the sound holds up. And that's not true
I
for me in a lot of NES games.
I I had this one as well. This was
Mm.
something that I think probably my mom got,
Yeah.
uh, and we definitely play this a lot because I had 2 younger brothers as well, so
Oh, yeah.
this was a big one. Not on my list, but it is a good one. I would probably make top 20 or something for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I could see it holding up. I haven't played it in a while, but I also
Mhm.
love this art. I love the box art, and,
Yeah.
it's just it's just great. It was probably an arcade game first, right?
Yeah, it was. It was an arcade game. So, like, I had seen it there, and I would always get excited to be like, "Oh my god, I could just play an arcade game at home. I don't have to worry about the quarters," you know? And
Right.
that's that was one of the main draws. And sometimes
Oh,
the ports
shoot.
were terrible, and sometimes they were great, and this one was really wonderful. It was a fantastic version.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I haven't played it in a while. Alright, we're gonna move on to my number 3. I keep clicking on the wrong thing. We're gonna get to it eventually here. So, mine is this is gonna be surprising maybe. Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's absolutely surprising. I didn't even think I would see Kemco show up anywhere on the list. I've never even played this game.
Okay.
You gotta tell me all about it.
Well, I mean, it plays like you see, you're just kind of going through, like, the castle and trying to avoid enemies and going through you go up the stairs, and then you go through the doors here and all that. I mean, if you see the video,
Mhm.
you get the idea. But one of the main reason, really I mean, it's a fun game, but it's in my memories because this is the first game I ever beat, ever.
Oh, oh, yeah.
I
Alright.
I got to the end of it. I got the end screen. If I had had a Polaroid, I would have taken a Polaroid of it, but I didn't do that. And I told my mom I beat it. And I don't know, it just stays in my memory because of that. I mean, it must have been I haven't gone back to it too much, but it must have been really fun for me to sit through it to beat
Mhm,
it. Because if you remember, like, games to me, maybe because I was too young at the
mhm.
time, but you didn't really beat every game you got. Games
No,
were so
no,
hard.
you played games, and that's it, and, like, it's fine. That's just how it
Yeah,
was. There was no expectation for me that I would beat a game, and that's also partly 'cause, I was in an arcade all the time, so it was like, I don't have 20 bucks to spend quarter feeding here. So it's
exactly.
like,
So,
"Let's play, let's have some fun, maybe I'll get a little better."
I
And
don't
that
think
that kind
go
of
ahead.
ethos continued with the home consoles until we started having games with good save features that were designed for you to continue. Because I really felt like it wasn't the case early on.
That's the other thing, not an like, the password save system, maybe, that was it for a long
Mhm.
time. But,
Yeah.
um, I remember, like, I had when I beat it, I was like, "Wow, it's over." Like, it took me off guard. I didn't know I was coming near the end.
Mhm.
Maybe there were hints and I was just a dumb kid, I don't know, but I didn't know. But, I considered some others. Mega Man 2 was on my
Mhm.
list, for a bit, but this one, just because of the memory there,
Yeah.
I'm putting it there. Might it might be something different on a different day, but this is this one sticks in my mind. So, that's my
Yeah.
number 3.
No, that's cool, man. That's a big surprise for me. I thought Kemco was always a little underrated, but I didn't even know they had made a Bugs Bunny game or any licensed stuff. I knew like I used to love Rescue the Embassy Mission, and of course, I'm pretty sure they did Shadowgate and Deja Vu.
Yeah, I didn't
So
have those, I don't think.
eh, they did some good work. That's very cool.
Yeah, they're good. That was a good one at least. I like the cover art too. Kinda white,
Yeah,
mainly white background. A little weird, but it's cool.
that definitely has the a feel of the era. that 89 to 91 aesthetic.
Oh my god, yeah.
Mm.
I loved and, like, the other thing too, Cartoon Network was just starting out, and they had no, original content for a long time. They would just play old cartoons because it was such a novelty that there was cartoons on all the time. So,
Yeah.
I actually grew up watching a ton of Looney Tunes, and I think
Yeah.
that that wasn't that wasn't as prevalent a little bit after, and, like, now there's not a whole lot of Looney Tunes at all, and kids don't even get the humor, I heard. Did you know
Yeah,
that?
it's I didn't realize that, but that makes sense. I mean, a lot of it is really just, like, thoroughly violent and abusive.
It is,
It's
it
like,
is,
okay.
it
Yeah.
is. I mean, I always just knew it was a cartoon, and that's just how
Yeah,
cartoons
it's
are,
not
but
I'm not gonna hit someone because I saw Bugs Bunny hit someone with a hammer. It's just not
I
how it works
know.
for me.
Maybe some
Just
kids did, but that wasn't the deal with me.
yeah. Maggie
Alright, ready to
Simpson.
move? Yeah. Ready to move on?
Yeah, sure. All right.
Here we go.
So, we'll
As
be
soon
going
as I
on to
get
the
this.
number 2.
Yep.
All right. My number 2 game is Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 is the first one that makes Mega Man work. So, Mega Man 1 was a cool game, great idea. Let's take the boss's powers, we absorb them, we use them in kind of a puzzle and all that stuff. Okay, you couldn't save the game, and it was insanely hard. When you hit the yellow, they call it, I think, the yellow devil, like, it was just so brutally difficult, and I couldn't make progress with it. There were a lot of platforming things that were too hard, I felt. There's like the ice stage. But even though there were some that were difficult in Mega Man 2, I feel like that game was short enough and it had a good password save. So I could keep coming back to it. I could keep on trying. And that's really what made the difference. This is one of the earlier games that I would beat and beat again and again. It was fine. I would love to go back and just play through it repeatedly. And I got that Mega Man collection when they re-released. It's actually multiple times now that they've done Mega Man collections on like the PS2, the Xbox, whatever, everything. What do? I get it, and I'm like, look at all these new Mega Man games because I haven't played 3, 4, 5, 6, or anything. And I just
Uh-huh.
end up playing Mega Man 2, and I'm like, wow, that was great. And then I never touch anything else in the collection. Recently, I did play Mega Man 8, the PlayStation 1 game, just because it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But Mega Man 2, like the music, the pacing, and this is really important, something like you were saying about Crazy Castle, the difficulty. Mega Man 2 felt a lot easier to me than Mega Man 1, and that encouraged me to try more. Like I felt like I could
Mhm.
do this. I felt like I could beat this game because
Y
it was easier and I had the password system. I had the energy tanks, like all those little things that I could do as a young kid who wasn't, you know, even if I was a better gamer as a kid than a lot of my friends, a kid's abilities are often just not really as refined. You know, we don't have the strong motor skills or kinesthetic awareness that a lot of adults do. And so this had enough accessibility that I could keep coming back to it and I beat it and I loved it and I beat it repeatedly.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is a top one. This is top 10 or top 5 for me as well.
Mm,
It's great. My memory's fuzzy with Mega Man 1, 2, 3, 4. They all kinda run together.
yeah.
But
I still look at Mega Man 3 as the new game that I haven't tried yet. Like I remember
so
seeing it in Nintendo Power and being like, "Whoa, those snakes look kind of cool." That's
so everyone these days calls it super hard and like the Dark Souls of platformers or something, but dude, was it really that much harder than anything else on NES? Like,
no, I
all
mean,
the
not at
NES
all.
was always hard. I that's
I think
in my opinion.
you know, now that I'm thinking about it a little, like Capcom made some really great NES games, and I think that they started making them more accessible. There's some games from Capcom on the NES that I would beat and I would play them repeatedly, and I think it started with Mega Man 2 for me.
I mean, I didn't beat a lot of them, but I never thought they were any harder than anything
Mhm.
else, but the way people talk about them these days,
Mm.
It's like Dark Souls or something. Like, dude, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but it's also like more fun, so that makes it a little bit less hard in some way, I think. I mean, it,
I never
you
felt
know,
that they were unfair. You know,
yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
games on
yeah,
the
yeah.
NES, I was like, "I'm losing at this game because this game is garbage." And, you know, it's not just me being a sore loser. I would be like, "These controls are terrible. I'm trying to tell it to do this thing, and it's not doing that thing." But with Mega Man, it did everything I tried to tell it to do. Like, when I
This is
talked about
again
Ninja Gaiden, it was if I made a mistake in Ninja Gaiden, it was my fault. There was no system
right.
within the game that was stopping me from doing anything and everything. The only thing holding me back was me.
I can see that. Yeah, it was I always loved the series. Mega Man was one of the top series for my household. And especially this peaked with Mega Man X on Super Nintendo.
Mm.
Though that was Mega Man perfected. Uh, Mega Man X would be a top 5 SNES game for me. The
It's
first one or two of them at least, but they're all good pretty much. Yeah,
yeah.
and the other thing too about platformers, this is
Mhm.
something that's really obvious to me, but I don't know why games don't do this more often. Platforming is, well, A, about the actual platforms and the jumping and shit, but,
Mhm.
like, the second most important thing probably are the power-ups, dude. You
Mm.
need interesting, cool power-ups, and this game had it.
Yeah.
Absorbing the fucking boss's powers and then having a whole new move set. Why don't more games do this? Like, if you
Yeah.
remember even like Altered Beast, you turn into this big bodybuilder looking dude, and then you're a
Mhm.
fucking beast on every level? Come on,
Yep.
man. They should do more of that. By the way, side tangent real quick.
Mhm.
Altered Beast, designed
Yeah.
by Lieko Kodama, and she did Phantasy Star, but I always kind of
Oh,
wonder once I figured that out, like does she like muscle dudes or something? I wondered if because like there's no other game where you see dudes like getting buff in real time like that. Like
yeah.
I wonder if that was like something she was into personally, which is fine. I think it's cool. Dudes
Yeah.
do that with women all the time, so I it's just something I wonder. But
Power up.
yeah, yeah, I love Alter
Feels
Beast,
so
dude.
good.
Oh my god. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
this is an awesome pick. It was very close to being on my list.
That's the thing too, like you said with these power-ups, like, there were certain levels that if you had the right power-up at that time, you had enough energy in it, then, okay, you could just suddenly bypass this section that was giving you trouble, and that was it was
Yeah,
a beautiful thing. It was like there were so many things that were built in there that I would now identify as accessibility, as options that I
right.
would never have called them then, and now I'm like, they gave you so many paths to victory, and it was beautiful soundtrack, fantastic graphics. The graphics are just right, really, for the NES. I feel like this is about as
Mm.
good as you should ever expect anything to look, really.
It is great. Looking back, we had such great entertainment as kids. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
we're moving to my number 2. Okay, so
Oh, wow.
this one's sort of a cheat because I did not play this as a kid. I got
That's
this on
okay.
I got this on emulator, god, 10 years ago or something on my GPD-Q9,
Yeah.
which is now defunct, but it was a great little emulator, portable. And I mean, look at this. The graphics are great. It's a mech game. Check
Mhm.
out the video version if you're listening on audio. But it's a mech game by Irem. Really kind of underrated company, probably. They did that. They actually did that game on Turbo Graphics that I said had a racist second level.
Yeah, I saw their names come up when
Photograph
I check
Boy.
out that video, and I was like, "That's an Irem game?"
Yeah,
This
uh,
is the R-Type team. Well,
yeah. So
I don't know if the R-Type team worked on it, but Irem. We lost access here?
still there.
Okay. Yep,
We had a
I'm
little.
here. I
We
saw
had
it
a little
for a
bit of.
second there, it was
Oh,
just me.
I'm going to mark the time code. So we're back, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So going back into it. So I couldn't put this game down, dude. It's
Mm.
fucking so good, man. I wish I'd grown up with it. I mean, it's like a platformer, but you can like change the gravity to go upside down.
Yeah.
And it's
So
a
I had seen
shooter.
this
Great
the first time.
graphics too for the NES. Go ahead.
I had never heard of this back in the day. I'd never seen it. I don't even know what year it came out. I just know that it showed up one time when I was watching Game Center CX, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, "Oh my god, wait a second! Is this where the idea for I don't know how to say it, like VVV, the Spikes game? Did you ever play
I
that?
don't I don't know that one.
It's an indie PC game. It was a fantastic platformer. You'll like it if you
Okay.
like this because I think it
Okay.
takes the mechanic from this. The gravity flip is
Uh-huh.
I saw that and I was like, "Oh my god, is that the inspiration for this game I loved?" And so I went to check
It
it out.
probably was.
And yeah, I would think so. So I never
It
saw or heard of this back in the day.
it's so good, man. I just I wish I played it when I was a kid, but I beat it. I could not put it down. It was one of those where
Yeah.
I'd be playing it in the bathroom, on the toilet, at work a little bit. I did that with Symphony of the Night too. But, but yeah, man. Oh my god, dude. It's I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss for words. I love it. I thought it was one of the best.
It's pretty impressive. It I just
Yeah,
yeah, when I saw that video, I was like, "This looks really cool," and I don't know why I never heard of it. I didn't even know if it had a North American release. So I was like, "Okay."
I think it did. I think it did. Might have been a short release, but, uh, yeah, I think it was
If
released.
it The other thing is, like, for me, if it came out after the Super Nintendo was already on the market, after the Genesis was already on the market, there's much less of a chance that I was paying any attention to it. Because
Late
like I said
release.
earlier, the NES being what I felt was just such rough hardware, I was very happy to leave it behind. I just like, I don't bother me anymore. I want to see graphics that look good. I want a game system that works when I put the cartridge in it.
So Master System never had that problem with the cartridges?
Mine never did. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know. I might
everybody had that issue.
people blowing on it and trying to slam it right into position and stuff. And I was just like, why is it doing that? Of course,
To
the
Nintendo's credit, everybody's
Mhm.
NES still works, you know? Maybe you still have to blow on the cartridge or but
one
you
out of
shouldn't.
10, 1 out of 10 attempts, and it'll still run.
But it's still run though, which
Mhm.
is pretty incredible for 35, 40-year-old hardware at this point. Maybe Master
Yeah.
System's the same, I don't know. Alright, so we're gonna move on to number 1 picks.
All right, here we go. The big show.
Alright, the big show. So here we go. I'm clicking towards that.
Punch Out. As a fighting game fan, this is top-notch work right here. So I'm presenting it with Punch Out and all. It was originally Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Honestly, as much as that was culturally relevant to me at the time, I could never beat him. When I got to him, I just kind of shut the game off because I was like, it's not even worth it. So for me, Mike Tyson's involvement didn't go much beyond the title screen. I was just like, yeah, whatever, man. It's Punch Out.
Right.
I love this game. This is the game that I still go back to and play all the time. In this little room that I have here, there's a 14-inch CRT on the side, and I have a Wii U plugged into it with component cables, and sometimes I play Punch Out there. It's just
Okay.
I just love this game. Whenever it becomes available on something, I grab it because I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go back and play it, and I'll get as far as I can, and it feels great. And sometimes, that doesn't work out well because this is a game designed for instant response. This is a game designed for CRTs with no input lag. So when you try it on some LCD screen, you're like, oh, I'm having a little trouble once I get to that sort of Popinski. It's your timings might not be entirely off. It might be owing to the hardware a little bit there. You can still work around it, but it's not that easy to do. It's a very demanding game with the windows of opportunity to hit the opponent and all that. So I like to play on the CRT here. And this is definitely something I want to get set up on the Mister connected to the CRT.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. And it's just the character design, everything about it. It's got a lot of that Street Fighter ethos, each character from like a different country. Of course, they build on stereotypes and stuff, but they're all really cool and fun. And every moment of this game is gratifying to me. I love
I'm
everything
gonna
about
I'm
it.
gonna drop a bomb on you right now, man.
Shoot.
I didn't grow up with this game, dude. I didn't.
Wow.
I played on emulator, years later when I was in college, maybe. I
Wow.
I I I remember hearing about it it wasn't like unheard of like the Master System. I think people probably had it that I knew, but like for
Wow.
me, the NES was almost 100% a platforming machine.
That's
So
crazy. I don't think I knew a single person with an NES who didn't have this game.
I mean, I might have been the only one that didn't have it. My brothers didn't have it. We weren't into boxing. We hadn't gotten into fighting games yet. The fighting
Mm.
game thing started with Street Fighter 2 on SNES. So
Okay,
I
yeah.
didn't really play a fighting game. I played beat 'em ups probably,
Mhm.
but not a fighting game, not a boxing game. So yeah, this is there's a few games like this for me because again, internet didn't
Mhm.
exist. I wasn't quite in my EGM phase, so I didn't know everything about gaming just yet.
Mhm.
Uh, so I wasn't the only thing I knew of was like stuff I'd see maybe in KB Toys or something in or on Walmart or whatever. So uh like there's a few others like Star Tropics I never played. Didn't know anybody that
Yeah,
had it.
Star Tropics was a pretty late release from in my memory. I mean, I don't remember if it might have been like 1990 or something, but there was a kid down the street who had Star Tropics, and I was like, "I don't even know this kid." And I was like, "Yo, can we go check out this game?" And, like, I just went into this kid's house and hung out and played Star Tropics one day after school because
I'm
I
about to
wanted to
get
see
to
Star
know him.
Tropics.
Yeah.
It's a good looking game, that Star Tropics too. It's pretty cool. I like it. But
It's on a
Punch
lot
Out
of
was
people's
another one.
top lists.
I made a friend. My mom moved to some other place, and I was still going to school in my old neighborhood, but I had just moved into this new neighborhood. And I just was walking around one day, and I ran across some other kid my age or whatever. We were talking, and he said he had Punch Out, and I was like, "Well, then what the hell are we doing out here? Let's go play Punch Out." And I went down the block to his house and hung out playing Punch Out there with somebody I just met.
That's awesome.
It was a different time, you know.
I did and have a Telero boxer on Virtual Boy. But that was because Virtual Boy had like 3 games at the time.
Yeah.
And ended up only having 7. No, I don't know, something
No.
like that though. But, yeah,
Everything about Punch-Out still holds up. The graphics, the sound, the gameplay. It's a beautiful thing. And I used to live for I used to drag out the fights because sometimes you get that little portrait of them with like a bandage over the eye or something. And I'd be like, I'm really gonna mess him up this round, but not put him down because I want to see him all beaten up. And then when I start the next round, I'm gonna wreck him.
I'm not gonna put him down. That's funny, man.
I still love it.
Um, the other one that is apparently big, but I didn't grow up with is that DuckTales game.
Oh, it's such a good game. Oh, it's
I
great.
I've played it after the fact, but that was just not in our house, man, and that was a platformer too, I probably should have, but
Yeah.
we just didn't I don't think we had that one, dude.
I'm going to
Um,
tell people out there right now, this is a fantastic thing. Get this before it disappears and gets delisted because of weird rights issues. The Disney Afternoon Collection on Xbox has DuckTales, and it has DuckTales 2, which is insanely rare if you actually wanted to get a cartridge of that. I never played it
okay.
until I bought this collection. It's also got Chip and Dale, the Rescue Rangers games.
I
It's
had
got
that one.
Tailspin and some other stuff. Get that before it gets delisted. Once you
It's
if
like
you own it,
$5.
you'll be fine. I think it's like it might be 15 MSRP, it might be 10, but I could tell you it's worth the money. Just get it because it might
Okay.
disappear. And for the number of great games you get, it's totally worth it. And DuckTales is one of them. DuckTales would have been on my list if we had expanded the list a little.
Oh, it's like 4 or 5 spot?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
another Capcom game that's really accessible. It's got a unique mechanic to it. And it was fun and it was short. Like I would beat the whole game and be like, "Oh, that's great." And then I'd go have lunch and maybe beat it again.
We had we had Chip and Dale, was one of the first games I remember. We had that
Mm.
Simpsons game where it was also really hard, but I remember we had that, and we
Oh,
had,
the Simpsons games were pretty rough.
they were. I tell you what was surprisingly good was the Felix the Cat game.
I did not play the Felix the Cat game.
Dude, to talk about good power-ups, you got so many out of your bag, or
I
you would
had
have to
no
when you collect
idea.
them, it was actually, like, really pretty decent. It was
See?
surprising.
See, now we gotta stop the show so I could go play Felix the Cat.
I
I
might have
love
built it up
Felix.
too
I love
much.
Felix the
I
Cat.
might have built it up too much, but it is, like, kinda good. Like,
Mm.
I don't know if it's top 20. It might
Yeah,
enter top 20 for me. I don't know. Anyway, check it out.
Yeah,
All
well,
right,
definitely.
my number one basic ass pick, man, but my God, it just
Yeah.
it just doesn't get much better than this.
Mm.
This is the second best Mario game ever. The first one being Super Mario World, I think,
I
on
agree
on
there. That's what you were
on
saying. It doesn't get
SNES.
much better than this. I was like, it does. It's Super
I
Mario
mean,
World.
Super Mario World, and also Shigeru Miyamoto also says the SNES one's the best, which
Mm.
I was like, damn, I've always thought that, and thank you for confirming it, Miyamoto-san. So the story here, this is what I was hinting at earlier.
Mm.
We come home from school. My dad had picked us up, which was on the rare side. Usually my mom was
Mhm.
picking us up. I never rode the school bus. My dad thought it was socialist. My dad is Republican. I I did not grow
But
up
he was
riding
okay
the
with
school bus.
school?
It was okay with school, but he thought the school bus was socialist institution.
Wow.
so any so anyway, it didn't make much sense. But anyway, my parents picked us up, drove us to school every day. Dad takes us home. Mom is already playing this game. My parents apparently were dating in the 80s or early 80s
Mhm.
and did go to the arcade together for dates. So
Wow,
my
that's
mom
cool.
my mom was yeah, my mom was, like, into Pac-Man and Galaga mainly.
Mhm.
Mainly Pac-Man and Tetris. She loves Tetris.
Mhm.
So gaming was in my blood from day 1, and, my mom had gotten this for herself. So, we thought I was thinking, "Is it somebody's birthday? Like, we got a new game out of nowhere for no reason," but my mom wanted it. And then again, this is very early where I didn't even know this was out. Uh,
Mhm.
it was just all of a sudden Mario 3's in our living room. So,
Damn, that's funny.
yeah, it
Yeah,
just magically appears.
this was like schoolyard conversation piece, well in advance of its existence. And there was a lot that happened prior to it, to get it out there. I'm pretty sure, was it The Wizard with Fred Savage was like a commercial for this and all of
I
Nintendo. And you got that early
dude,
footage of Super Mario 3.
I was too young. I was too
Yeah.
young. I mean, we're
Yeah.
only like 5 years apart from each other, but as at the kid level, it's
Yeah. It's a
it's
huge
it's a big
difference.
it's a huge difference, right? From
Yeah.
5-year-old to 10 years old. Yeah, I mean, I was aware of Mario. We had 1 and 2, uh,
Hmm.
and I love both of those, but, again, I wasn't at the EGM level of my life yet,
Hmm.
and gaming, was already liking game, but it just didn't get to that. It wasn't ramped up into, like, insane passion just yet. Maybe this game was
Hmm.
part of it, but this game is it's a basic bitch answer probably, but I mean,
No,
God,
no.
dude, it's Mario 3. It's such a great game.
It's
I it's one of the few NES games I keep going back to. The levels are great, the creativity. You wonder where they fucking thought of half of this shit. Like, think about we're
Mhm.
used to it now, but think about this world building, a fucking plumber that turns into a fucking raccoon that jumps on fucking turtles, battle as a fucking warp whistle, and he's battling fucking all kinds of enemies, Bowser and shit. Like, this is like kind of an insane combo of elements, and it
Yeah.
comes together really good here. Um, and I
Yeah.
mean, platforming is one of my favorite genres. Platforming and fighting games, probably my 2 top genres to this day. It's
Mhm.
just this is one of the best. It just doesn't get much better than this, I feel like.
This was, obviously, there was a lot leading up to it for me and, my friends at the time. I was born in '79, so I think this came out when I was in the neighborhood of 10 or 11 probably. And, I had played Mario 2, and I remember, um, the time leading up to that, it was featured in Nintendo Power, and a friend of mine had gotten it for Christmas, so I went to hang out with him, and we played it at his house. And I was just like, "This doesn't feel like a Mario game. This is really weird," you know?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
didn't really take to it. I didn't like the shift in style, which we later found out was because it was like a reskinned other game, Doki Doki Panic.
Yeah, yeah.
Mario 3, I remember looked really impressive to me, and I couldn't avoid that playground hype, seeing things like the frog suit and the Hammer Brothers suit and stuff. I was just like, "Yo, that's awesome. I wanna be a
The
Hammer."
power-ups. The power-ups, man, come on. That's what
Yeah.
platformers are missing that these days, I feel like.
So you know, it was something that would have been a known quantity. I didn't even have to ask anyone. Everyone knew. It was just like this nationwide phenomenon. Nintendo
So
was huge at
it
the
was
time,
coming. It felt
you
like it
know?
was coming, like the storm
Yeah.
was coming. I
And
see.
one day, I my father came to pick me up. My parents were divorced. He showed up on like that Saturday or Sunday or whatever, and he had something like he's got his jacket like this, you know? And I'm like, "What's going on, Dad? What's in your jacket?" He's like, "I got something for you." I was like, "Oh, well, we're going out to lunch though." And he's like, "Yeah, but I figure I'll just let me show you right now, you know?" And he takes it out and it's Super Mario 3. And I was just like, "Oh my God, this is out now. Oh, and you got it for me. This is awesome. I can't wait to try this." But like I put it to the side. We went out for lunch and stuff. And he brought me back a little early because he knew I was gonna want to play it too. But yeah, it was big. I spent a lot of time with this game. I did. I loved it. But I couldn't beat it. And I think that again, this was the problem, right? Like you were kind of expected to beat it in one sitting. You didn't have a password save. You didn't have any battery save, and so I never really felt like playing through all the stuff to get where I was. Where I was, like I left off on stage 6 or something, you know? And I wanted to see all of it instead of taking the warps because I thought the graphics were great. I loved all those cool power-ups. Like each world had a different theme. So I was like, no, I want to be the frog and swim as the frog. Like I want to be the Hammer Brother. I want to get in this shoe or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny because there was, you know, you hear about this kind of thing all the time, right? Like, oh, my uncle works for Nintendo and he's got this. We actually had a friend, the same friend who I played Dr. Chaos with. His uncle had imported Super Mario 3 and
Oh my
got
god.
and had like a little adapter for us to check it out. And it was just, it was funny because it was like the, oh my God, are we allowed to see this? And like, I didn't even talk to anybody about it except for one other friend because I was like,
You wanted to keep the
allowed to talk
secret.
about this? You know,
So
if I
you
tell
saw it like
everybody,
months early? Did you see it
I,
months earlier?
I don't know how much earlier it was. It was almost like this, like I said, it was like this clandestine kind of thing of like, oh, I know this is out in Japan. And like his uncle got it. I don't know if we could talk about this. Is that a crime? Are you allowed to get that?
Right.
So yeah, it
Is
was.
that a
I don't know how
crime?
much in advance we got to see it, but yeah, we played a little bit there. But it didn't really matter until I got my hands on the game for myself. You know, I could sit down and really play it, and I was very much impressed. But I didn't actually beat this until it came out as a re-release on the Game Boy Advance, and it had a save system. Because then I was like, now I can go through and just play every single stage, like I did with Super Mario World.
I might have beaten this, but it might have been
Mm.
like one of those all-day sessions as a kid.
Mhm.
Start in the morning and then go till night. I don't know. I have a memory, and without the warp whistle too, I'm pretty sure I did. Because I
Mhm.
remember just loving every second of this game, man. Just so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's great.
Um,
It's a beautiful game. Just looking at the giant levels, everything about it was really on point. Even if I
it's
did
so
favor Super Mario World, I was very impressed with Super Mario 3.
well, that wasn't out just yet as
Right.
well. So, also looking back, like to me, because I was so young, it felt like, especially when you got to Super Nintendo, that felt like a 10-year span.
Yeah.
Like the SNES dynasty, the SNES empire lasted from 10 years or something.
Mhm.
But you look back at the timeline, it was like 4 years, but just time moves so slow as a kid.
Yeah.
Uh, like it's
When it's
unbelievable looking back. Like only fucking 4 years, and then when the PS1 was out, what the fuck?
I
But it
know.
seems so long.
Yeah. Yeah, when 4 years is like half your lifetime or more, it's very different.
Yeah, the perception of time was absolutely fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Uh, we have any more memories before we're out of here?
I think it's the NES. I definitely, as time went on, I look back on it more favorably than at the time because there were some games that just really stood the test of time for me, like Punch Out, Mega Man, and all that. But I always was resentful of the fact that I felt the hardware was bad. It just didn't hold up, and there were always problems with the cartridges not working right. You'd plug it
So it
in,
was
turn them
definitely
on.
not the graphics were definitely worse than Master System.
I'm gonna say, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. My experience at that time of looking at what the Sega Master System was putting out versus what Nintendo was putting out was just like, yeah, no. But what we did get to see as time went on was like more developers, I think, recognizing the limitations of the hardware and working within that. Just like say, nowadays the current it's the way Nintendo does things, right? They don't care about what the cutting edge is. They care about what they can do with their own clean, particular aesthetic that won't be held up to the same standard as, say, something realistic like a Call of Duty game or something
They
along those
don't
lines.
they don't compete, man. They're in their own lane entirely. It's like Apple doesn't really compete with Microsoft in a big
Right.
way, you
Well,
know?
we've talked about that before that they once upon a time did, and they
They
lost.
did. It
And
didn't work out. Yeah,
that's why it
Steve
was like,
Jobs
we
said
need to
that
do something different.
when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he said, "We did not need to beat Microsoft to be successful," which he was exactly right, and look what
Yeah.
he did,
Right. You need
you
to be
know?
doing something different. You need to be doing something unique and offer something to the fans that they can't get elsewhere. And Nintendo does that. They have great internal design studios. They do a wonderful job with, like, say, the same thing as Pixar, right? We're not going to do this realistic animation because it'll look bad in 2 years' time. But if we do this very stylized human form for something like The Incredibles, it's going to hold up over time. It'll look all right because it's our aesthetic and we've worked within the limitations of the hardware well. And
Yeah,
now I can say, a lot of these NES games, mainly, of course, first party, did that well. But other
yeah.
things like Capcom just really rose to the occasion. And when they went to another platform like the Genesis, my God, did they rise to the occasion?
Right, right, right.
So, so yeah, I think it wasn't very good hardware, but the Super NES was built like a tank. So
Yeah.
they learned their lesson there. You could take that Super NES, whip it around against the wall, and be like, yeah, whatever, let's play some Castlevania now. It's still fine.
Yeah, that was when my gaming fandom, like, ramped up 10 or 20-fold was the SNES era.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, because I mean, look at it, SNES, man. So, yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, I never had the Rob. I saw that in, I never know anybody that had it either. Like, I saw that in what you call it, like, magazines and stuff. I Everybody had Duck Hunt. That was another one.
yeah.
Everybody we all that was like the Mario slash Duck Hunt session was a common session for the NES.
Well, that's because
Uh,
they sold the hardware in that way. So originally, the first set was like this premium product, right? And I remember
yeah,
reading something like the designer was saying, "Oh, for an American market, it needs to be more like a premium product, like a VCR, and that's why the console looks so different for North America from the Japan release." But they then had a cheaper version, I think, called the Action Set, and that one had no Rob. It just had the gun and then the Duck Hunt Mario Brothers. So that was, I think, the one that most people had because it was cheaper.
see, that's what took off in my town, I think.
Mhm.
Everybody had that one.
Yeah,
Um,
Gyromite, I think, was the initial version, and then they stopped packaging it with that, which is for the best for everyone because it didn't work out well.
my other memories was I'll say this before we head out of here. I wasn't an RPG guy,
Mhm.
and I didn't like reading a whole lot for one, but also to me, gaming was almost synonymous with platform games,
Mhm.
and that involves going left to right and like having different ways to go somewhere and having freedom. I know everybody likes open world these days, and I do
Mhm.
too, but open world for me took some time to get used to. I
Yeah.
just want I maybe I'm everybody no one thinks this about me because of my long hair or whatever, but I'm
Mhm.
a pretty type A personality. I'm
Mhm.
pretty organized. I like things like simple to understand and like I don't know. I wanted just a level to clear. So
Mhm.
Final Fantasy wasn't like that, and whatever. And Zelda. I remember trying it at a friend's house, and I was just like, God, this is not for me. At least
Without
at the time.
Nintendo Power's maps, I don't think I ever would have been able to do anything in Zelda.
I didn't have the Nintendo Power. My brothers had that, but we didn't subscribe to those till later on, SNES days probably. But and another one was like this is more of a Super Nintendo conversation, but I remember Super Metroid thinking it looked cool, but the fact that it wasn't like left to right and you had multiple choices, I was also bad at directions. I would get so lost in games and in real life.
Yeah,
So
I still do
didn't
too.
did not work out for me, but now I'm into RPGs to a degree, and I got super into Metroidvania games. Symphony
Mhm.
of the Night and Super Metroid, love them now.
Mhm.
So I haven't bought Metroid Dread yet, just because I know I'm going to get addicted to it, and I need to kind of plan out that addiction. Maybe over the holiday season.
Yeah, I could tell you it's in the neighborhood of 20 hours playtime. So,
It's
no.
not that long.
It's long. It's roughly the right length that that kind of game should be. I don't think it
Okay.
should exceed 20 hours, honestly. And I don't know
Okay.
how many of those 20 hours were me falling asleep on the couch because, I'm a parent and I fall
Yeah,
asleep.
yeah. I gotcha. I was falling asleep playing my Steam Deck last night, but I was tired. So yeah, that's mainly it. Great system. The starting point, the genesis for me for gaming. Uh, I skipped the Atari generation entirely. That's just
Yeah.
because I wasn't
You know,
around.
it was okay. It wasn't that great. The
Yeah,
Pac-Man on 2600 was bad. Pac-Man on 5200 was good. I think you just found the whole story, really.
that's
It's,
it.
it's
Okay.
really it. There wasn't a lot. I mean, there was adventure and stuff, but yeah. So for me with the NES, I feel like this was a bad system. This was underpowered hardware. It always was weak, but it had a great library. They had excellent support from a lot of great third party developers, and the first party teams knew what they were doing. So it's
Okay.
always the case, right? It's the software. It doesn't really matter what the hardware is. And we're seeing that today, right? The Switch is the weakest machine on the market, and it's doing gangbusters because there's a
Oh
great
yeah.
library. And of course, they tapped in once again to something unique where nobody's competing with them in the portable market.
What if games were just supposed to be fun, Mike? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's it. That's all. They're all supposed to be fun, and that's it. That's
Do
why,
you like first person shooters? Well, we're gonna make one where you shoot ink at each other. Isn't that great? And it's a
yeah,
fucking huge hit in Japan, at least.
that's
You know what I
that's a
mean?
third person shooter,
Third person,
which
still.
I love that game. I love Splatoon.
I love Splatoon too. My friends aren't into it, and I'm like,
Mm.
you're lame. But yeah, I'm gonna get the third one probably. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us behind the paywall once again. The gaming Gaiden reign continues,
All right, always a
and
good time.
see you later.
Peace.